In this chapter, I'll summarize some of the challenges I've been encountering with data collection using this homebrew datalogger and my first experience using artificial intelligence, specifically Anthropic's AI platform Claude, to help me remedy problems. If programming or exploring AI for the same is not your jam, you may want to hold off until the next chapter, where I'll talk more about the experiment's results and what's next for the installation. The bottom line is Claude resulted in modifications to my code that have addressed respective issues. If you've also played with data loggers and have had trouble with corrupt or dropped data, the lessons I'll summarize today may be of value to your own installation. Let's start with a summary of the problems I was encountering. And I just visited the station to turn things on, since they've already determined where they're going to place their air temperature humidity sensors in both plots. You can see that they've placed them. I figure now's a good time to start collecting data. Let's download the data and take a look at it. April 9th is when the data started collecting, and I'm getting some weird output. I don't know what this is about. I can back out the dates and times, but this is odd. I'm going to have to do a little research on this. I prepared a detailed log of my hardware details, code, and problems for posting on Adafruit's customer service forum, which has always been helpful. At the time, there was a lot of discussion in the news regarding Anthropic's AI models being used by the Pentagon for programming, so on a whim, I decided to give this free AI service a shot. I quickly put together a brief prompt summarizing minimal details of my problems to include a copy of my spreadsheet containing cryptic output well above my capabilities to decipher, since I'm not a programmer by trade. Claude reviewed the contents of my data logger output and immediately diagnosed the problem as a, quote, classic I2C bus fault. It concluded with a root cause summary table summarizing the symptoms and likely causes. It appears that respective symptoms could be linked to one simple cause: a low coin cell battery on my real-time clock that was impacting communications on my I2C bus. This is something I would have never thought of, but makes perfect sense since the clock I was using was years old, recycled from another project. I subsequently replaced not only the clock battery, but ordered a new clock and SD card as well, just to make sure all my bases were covered. Okay, just opened up the SD card and it looks like we only got data through the 17th, so I'm not sure what's going on. As summarized in prior videos, data collection was yielding reasonable results, but data fails were a chronic annoyance that I needed to remedy sooner than later, given summer was already underway. Having had luck in consulting Claude and having realized a successful remedy to data corruption, I prompted it again, since I'm just a hobbyist that doesn't understand some of the subtler nuances of how microcontrollers actually process code. The first lesson learned is associated with not having any I2C timeout protection in my code for all the devices installed on my logger. Claude observed that if any one of those devices misbehaves for any reason, the microcontroller never advances past the stuck call, so no further records are written. Claude recommended including a wire.setTimeout function in code that prevents any I2C hiccups from hanging the loop indefinitely. So this is an important piece of code that I'll be using moving forward in future sketches. Next, Claude flagged my use of the delay function between sensor reads. The delay function is so easy and intuitive for non-programmers like me and is okay for short breaks. But for longer delays between sensor reads, it sets things up for failure once again should something go wrong while the microcontroller is waiting. An alternative is to use the millis function, which tracks elapsed time without halting the CPU, something I should have been using all along in my years of playing with Arduinos. In response, Claude set up some global variables it could reference in my loop function, and then suggested an if-then statement in my loop that continuously checks for elapsed time against the log interval for reading my sensors. The bottom line is the use of a millis function keeps the microcontroller from sitting in a suspended state, which can lead to problems down the road. Next, since I'm logging data to an SD card, I have the option of including additional fields for tracking errors, which can similarly be logged and used for debugging should things fail once again. Claude went on to make several recommendations for error checking flags as summarized here. This suggested field was interesting since it clued me into the fact that there's a thermometer on my DS3231 real-time clock that can report temperature inside my datalogger box. This is particularly useful and of interest as it relates to operational conditions for my logger, which can get very hot in the Sonoran Desert during the summer. To summarize, these are the recommended changes to my log file header, requiring additional changes to my code that would help me track down problems in the future. Finally, Claude recommended I also consider adding a watchdog timer. This automatically resets the microcontroller if it ever hangs, whether from a sensor lockup or any other reason that might cause things to stall and data to be lost. This is extremely powerful since it's like having an assistant in the field ready to hit the reset button on the microcontroller if it ever stalls. This is the library and code that Claude recommended I add to my sketch, which will result in the microcontroller reset should things stall for more than 16 seconds. If the cycle takes longer than 16 seconds, the watchdog fires, resets the microcontroller, and the datalogger picks up again on its next read cycle. Claude noted this would be the single most resilient improvement remaining, noting that if I had already had it incorporated, I probably wouldn't have lost data as had been taking place through those chronic failures. In response to Claude's offer to rewrite my code, I could have simply said yes, but instead wrote a prompt that echoed all the recommendations, thinking of the meaning behind each one so that I could reference the same moving forward. This way, the diminished cognitive load of relying on AI was compensated by some actual learning that I might embrace and reflect on in future code iterations. Within a few minutes, Claude went ahead and modified my code and made it available for download. What's even more impressive is that Claude provided detailed comments associated with its edits so that I can clearly see what's been modified or improved, where and why. Over time, this has become an iterative process. I summarize challenges that I'm having with my field deployments, and Claude responds with revisions to my code that I can review, download, and test in my loggers. Again, I'll upload sketches associated with these consultations, wait a few days, download and review data files, share the output with Claude, discover other problems, and try again until I get something that works flawlessly. Okay, Wednesday, June 3rd, about 10:30 a.m. And we're revisiting the site to see if the updates to the code have addressed our drop data issues. Okay folks, I just uploaded the data and it's looking really good. Everything looks good through June 3rd, about 10:30 a.m. So it appears that the modifications that were made to the code are working, because normally this would conk out after a couple days. We'll keep watching it and see what happens. So I think we hit a milestone. I think that we're probably ready to install soil temperature sensors now that we've got all these little bugs worked out. So that'll be the next move. Over time, Claude's diagnostics suggest everything is working well and the system is now healthy. I have to admit, I'm fairly impressed with the results. However, this has also diminished my own cognitive load, which is kind of a mixed blessing. Brain atrophy is certainly something I'd be concerned about when relying on AI for programming, which is something I enjoy as it relates to solving puzzles. At the same time, it can also be a valuable tool if used for learning from one's own mistakes. Of course, I'm using the free version of Claude to help with tasks ranging from data analysis to improving my code. Respective queries can be rather complicated, meaning my access is periodically put on hold with a request I consider upgrading my free plan for uninterrupted service. I haven't had to do this to date, but have since learned to be very specific and detailed when querying Claude so that I can get more done with less time. Along those lines, these are some of the things I do to make sure Claude can come up with a solution efficiently, with the goal of not wasting limited energy and water resources when Claude takes the same to compute solutions. Needless to say, I still need to acknowledge Adafruit. I'm fairly certain Claude is scraping these threads to identify solutions to my own challenges, but the fact that respective remedies can be identified and shared so quickly is truly remarkable. In my next video, I'll discuss the challenges in using ambient temperature as a gauge on the effectiveness of shade cloth as a strategy for climate change resiliency, and then discuss amendments to the setup that I've made, including the addition of soil temperature sensors, which provide a clearer metric on impact.